Hey everybody, welcome to the RedZone. Sean Brown, Michael Johnston here. This is our college football picks for week 11. This is starting November. We got about 4 weeks left. 1st of December is conference championship games. So Oklahoma, Ohio State, which is our favorite teams, were on a bye last week. LSU, Alabama on a bye. So of course that's the big game this week, LSU, Alabama.
Yeah.
So
it's gonna be a good one.
We're going to get straight into the picks right now, and we're not going to talk about last week. So first one is Washington is a 10-point favorite at Oregon State. What do you think?
Oregon State surprised this last week, and then Washington
They were close with Utah. Utah pulled it out.
Yeah, but didn't Utah end up beating the spread on that?
Yeah, barely, but they did.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to overreact to Oregon State. Washington, I think, is a good team. I'll take them.
Yeah, Washington could have won that game. They were up for a while. Oregon State is surprising a lot of people. It's a home game for them, but I'm with you. Washington's really good. They have a lot more talent than Oregon State. The spread is 10, but I think that they can cover that, so I'll take Washington. Baylor is a 1-point favorite at TCU. What do you think?
That's surprising to me. Just a 1-point spread.
Considering TCU's lost to Oklahoma State. And
and Baylor, I mean, undefeated still. They just – I wonder if it's people overreacting to the West Virginia game.
Might be.
Although I don't know what really happened there. So you could kind of blame that for being a stall-out game. Maybe they're looking ahead a little bit and didn't think that they needed to play as hard against West Virginia. They did get away with a win there. They didn't cover, but I got to say that Baylor is just far and above, TCU at this point in the season. I know Max Duggan, I believe, is or Duggan at TCU. He's playing pretty good.
He's playing better. He's coming on.
Yeah, but I got to think at this point in the season, I don't think this is the game that Baylor would drop.
I think Baylor might have gotten a little bit of a scare against West Virginia.
Yeah.
I think they realized, there were several teams this past week that just they didn't play well. It was kind of like their off game.
Yeah.
And it's a swift kick in the butt, and like you got to get yourself ready. And I think Baylor bounces back. And at one point, you got to take Baylor.
Yeah.
Okay. Kansas State is at Texas. Texas a 5.5-point favorite. Texas drops out of the top 25. Kansas State was sitting there ranked. Are they 22nd or 20th? I forget. I don't know. I may have that wrong one there. But anyway, they're in the top 25. What do you think?
I'm taking Kansas State. Texas just kind of, I don't know. I don't really know what's going on. I know they've had a lot of injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But Kansas State, with Skylar Thompson, they're starting to find themselves kind of late in the year. So I don't know if they outright win. It is in Austin. And did Texas play this last week?
I think they were off.
Were they on a
because they
bye?
lost to TCU, and then they were on a bye.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't know. I think this might be a time when I don't know that rust really comes into play whenever it's a bye week. They did get some rest, maybe get some of those guys back. But Kansas State, they've got momentum right now. They completely destroyed Kansas, which we picked Kansas in that one to at least keep it close.
I was surprised at how much they were able to shut down the passing game of Kansas.
They did that against Oklahoma. I mean, Jalen Hurts had a good game, but they took away the things that he normally liked to do. They forced him to pass, and it wasn't the best day if you kind of watch the film for the Oklahoma passing game. So I will take Kansas State to keep it close. Maybe not win, but to keep it closer than 5.
So what I think, the reason I think Texas is the favorite here is because Skylar Thompson does a lot of running.
Yeah.
It's the one thing Texas's defense does well is stop the run game. What they're horrible at is the passing game. Like they give up a ton through the air. But Kansas State's not really throwing the ball that well, but they're running it really well. On the flip side of that, Kansas State's defense taking away the passing game, but then Ellinger can still run. So I can kind of see where Texas is probably the favorite here.
I mean, you got to think Jalen Hurts is a better running quarterback than Sam Ellinger.
And they put up some points late, and they came back.
That's true.
So
that's true.
So I don't know. I really thought Kansas State. If Texas was a favorite, I thought it'd be 2 points or 1 point. 5.5's too much. I'll take Kansas State as well, but I'm not surprised that Texas would be the favorite when you look at kind of the matchups.
Yeah.
You know, Texas
and
still has an edge on the line.
Austin's,
so.
I mean, 100,000+ seats in that, and hopefully their fans continue to go. I know their playoff chances are dashed, but you know, crazier things have happened in conferences that, you know, the thing is, if Texas loses this, there is no chance at Big 12. I mean, I know
there's very little chance.
It's very little,
anyway,
but some things could happen. I mean, Oklahoma could lose again. Baylor could lose twice. You never know. I mean, this crazy things have happened, and Texas, they've got to win this one, but I don't know. Kansas State's just kind of on a roll right now.
They are on a roll. That's right.
They've got momentum.
Okay, so we both have Kansas State. East Carolina is at SMU.
And Kansas State is 6-2 against the spread. So do with that what you will.
Okay, East Carolina is at SMU. SMU is a 23.5-point favorite. SMU coming off that just great game against Memphis. They did lose, but it was still a heck of a game to watch.
Gosh, that game was awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
If they replay it on ESPN, make sure you watch that, because the offense. And I mean, it plays that weren't going for much, you know, a little bit earlier on the game, would just go for 70 yards and a touchdown. And
when your defense starts to wear out in the fourth quarter,
right? There were guys just not even running. I mean, defensive players just not even running. That game was crazy towards the end, and the amount of points scored in that amount of time was insane.
And on the flip side of that, Cincinnati had East Carolina last week, and I'll tell you what, the Bearcats are lucky to come out with a win. They kicked a field goal with 3 seconds to go to win the game. I think it was 46-43. East Carolina was the better team that night. I mean, I watched a lot of that game, and Cincinnati, lots of mistakes, and you could tell they didn't take it seriously. They weren't ready. They weren't sharp. Hopefully that was their kick in the butt, you know, for the week. But East Carolina on that night was the better team. But as far as this game goes, a home game for SMU, you know they're going to bounce back. I mean, that was just a tough game with Memphis, but you know, I don't think they'll take East Carolina lightly. They know they got to keep rolling. So
SMU has the ability with Shane Buechele to score points in a very quick time. I mean, they score in a hurry. A lot of offense on that team. So I think they have the ability to blow out East Carolina. You saw East Carolina was able to hang with Cincinnati, but I think that you know, they gutted out that much against Cincinnati, and SMU coming back home. That was their first loss of the season. You know, they still have something to play for, a good bowl game maybe. So I think that they do come out with a statement here.
So we both have SMU there. Okay. Florida State is at Boston College. Boston College a 1-point favorite. Florida State just fired Willie Taggart. He's done.
Wow.
He was let go today. So
Man.
Lots of turmoil going on in Florida State. You know what's significant about that? I know they weren't doing well, and I know coming off the loss to Miami that people were wanting some changes. But Taggart, I don't know the exact number. He had a huge buyout. And Florida State's not a rich school.
Yeah.
And so where they were coming up with that money, boosters had to have kicked in, like alumni. To pay that off, but
you start losing at a program that has seen, you know, recent success, and they'll do just about anything to get a coach out of there.
Yeah, exactly. So back to this one. You know, Florida State has some offense. Boston College has shown that their defense is not that good, but Florida State's defense is terrible as well. Yeah. You know, Boston College is just going to run the ball, run. You know, 1 point basically it makes it a picket. Yeah. And I'm on the fence with it. I'm going to say Florida State, because I think after losing their coach, something just tells me they're going to have a spark and they're going to put up mad points this week. And I just think they go into Boston College and they really maybe score 50. I mean, so I've got Florida State winning.
Boston College is that team that, you know, Kansas went up there and won. But then I believe they covered this last week.
They did against
Syracuse. Yeah. I'm going to take them for the second week in a row. I'm going to take them. It is a pick 'em game, so I am picking them. I just think that's too much at Florida State to have to deal with. I mean, they're sitting at 4-5. Yeah, but Boston College needs one more game to be bowl eligible. Yeah. Florida State's fighting for that as well, but just firing your head coach. We have seen teams that have kind of turned around the next week because maybe the players take to an offensive coordinator, but I'll take Boston College in this.
Remind me after we're done with all the picks, I got something else to talk about. It has to do with South Carolina, so just remind me to bring that up. Okay, next one, Maryland at Ohio State. Ohio State, a 42-point favorite. At Columbus, it's a noon kickoff. The reality is Penn State beat Maryland 59-0.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ohio State could easily score 60, 70 points on them.
Yeah.
I've got Ohio State covering.
I've got Ohio State in every one of those 42 points.
That's right. Okay, let's move on then. Penn State is at Minnesota. Both teams 8-0. This game looks like it's a noon game on ABC. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
PJ Fleck had lobbied for game day to be in Minnesota. Game day is going to be in Tuscaloosa.
Yep.
So
you have to go.
You have to.
Number one and number two teams in the country.
How often does that happen in the regular season?
Yeah.
Very rarely.
Minnesota's just reeling because this is the first time in a while that they've been as good as they are, and to our surprise, they're sitting there undefeated on the year and playing really well. I don't know how much competition they've played so far, so Penn State's definitely going to have been the first really good team that they've played.
That's right. And all I'm going to say is this. Penn State's a 6.5-point favorite. I'm taking Penn State. I have said that these last 4 games, Minnesota could lose 3 of these 4 games.
Yeah.
However, Minnesota fans, because I've been on your case all year long and haven't given you any credit because I thought you've played nobody up till now, if you get to 10 wins, so if you win 2 of these last 4 and get to 10 wins, I will do our conference championship picks in a Minnesota sweatshirt. I'll buy one and we'll do a Minnesota. But you got to get to 10 wins. 9 doesn't cut it. So you got to win. You're sitting there at 8-0. You need 2 more wins. So.
Just looking at who they've played, South Dakota State, which is a good FCS school, one of the better.
Decent, but it's still FCS.
Right. Fresno State, Georgia State, Purdue, Illinois, Nebraska, Rutgers, and Maryland.
Not much of a schedule.
Not really. But it is in Minnesota. There could be a lot to the confidence you gain at winning those. I mean, and they haven't. It's not like they've played these teams and just barely beaten them. I mean,
they did up until Illinois.
They beat Maryland 52-10. They beat Rutgers 42-7. They beat Nebraska 34-7. Illinois 40-17. And before that they struggled a little bit. But since the win at Purdue, they've come and they've completely taken those teams to task. I mean, they've done what the good teams do against lesser opponents.
Sure.
So.
Well, now they're getting to play real opponents.
Yeah.
So let's see.
So you look at something that I like to look at a little bit is the record against the spread. And Minnesota is 5-2 against the spread. But then you go back and you look at their competition and you see they've not played a Penn State yet.
Right.
Nowhere even close have they played a Penn State.
Yeah.
So I'll take Penn State with the touchdown lead. I wouldn't be surprised if they kept it close. Even closer than a touchdown.
If it's within 10, I would be surprised.
Yeah.
I think Penn State wins by 10 or more.
But Penn State, they've been playing Michigan, Iowa, Michigan State. Those are still better teams than Nebraska, Illinois, Purdue,
Maryland,
Rutgers.
Yeah.
So I think that Penn State has more of the experience at playing the bigger type games.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'll take Penn State.
Okay. Vanderbilt is at Florida. Florida is a 24.5-point favorite coming off their really just tough loss to Georgia. I mean, it was a touchdown game. Fromm played better, but they couldn't stop DeAndre Swift. And then Trask couldn't. I mean, he threw 2 touchdowns, but Trask and Fromm's numbers are kind of identical almost. They weren't too much apart, but Florida really offensively really struggled.
Yeah.
I mean, they struggled most of that game. So. I don't know. You come off a big emotional game like that with a loss, and do you bounce back? Do you win by 25 or more? I mean, against Vanderbilt. I mean, South Carolina beat Vanderbilt last week like 26-7.
24-7.
24-7. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they bounce back. I would hope they would. It's being played in a swamp. I'll just go ahead and take Florida to cover. I don't feel comfortable with that pick, but I'll go ahead and take that.
Yeah, they have the ability to, and Vanderbilt's given up 32 points a game, and they're only scoring 17 points a game. They got blown out by UNLV by 24 points. So you got to think that Florida can score, if UNLV was able. Right.
They can score at least 30.
Right, and then maybe hold them to 7 or 14.
Yeah.
I think they score more than 30. That was an emotional game, but I don't have any faith in Vanderbilt here.
What I worry about is with Florida now with the 2 losses, pretty much out of it in the SEC altogether.
Yeah.
So now what are these players playing for? And you would hope that they would keep playing hard and playing for something.
Yeah.
But look what happened with Auburn last week. They struggled with Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And they shouldn't. But of course they don't have a quarterback either. So
yeah.
So you got Florida?
Yeah. Yeah. I've got Florida to
cover.
All right,
I'll take Florida as well. Georgia Tech is at Virginia. Virginia 17-point favorite. Virginia coming off the win against who was it? You took the other team. North Carolina. Was it North Carolina? Yes, you took North Carolina.
I'm totally blanking.
Yeah, I think it was North Carolina. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. Don't have everything in front of me. But anyway, Virginia 17-point favorite. Georgia Tech really struggling this year. Last year a triple option team that's converted to a spread, and they do not have the personnel to run the spread.
Yeah.
It's just a struggle. They'll turn it around. It reminds you of Baylor a few years ago when they won one game.
Yeah.
and went 1-11, and now look where Baylor's at a couple years later. So Georgia Tech can turn it around. They got to recruit players to fit that system. As far as this game goes, I'll take Virginia to cover 17.
Yeah, I've got Virginia as well. I mean, not really a whole lot to say about that one. I think Georgia, they surprised me one week, or Georgia Tech surprised me 1 week, but I'll take Virginia Tech.
Okay. Stanford.
Or Virginia, sorry. And yes,
Virginia.
it was
Virginia.
UNC they played last week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stanford is a 3.5-point favorite at Colorado. Stanford's sitting there at 4-4. Colorado 3-6. Man, I want to take Colorado in this, but I'm going to take Stanford.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing right now. I had Colorado in there. They played really well at home, I believe, against was it Boise State?
I think so. They beat Nebraska at home. I forget who their other wins
were. Did they play Boise State?
They went on the road and won at Arizona State.
That's right.
So,
yeah,
which was a shocker at the time. So,
but the last time I saw them play at home, they played really well. I mean, they had a lot of offense.
Yeah.
They had a quarterback. I forget his name.
That was against, I think, Washington. Was it Washington State or?
Washington State. I believe that was Washington State. Sorry, we're all over the place.
Yeah.
Long weekend, but yeah, the last time I saw Colorado play at home, they played really well. But it's 3.5, and you got to think. I don't know. I think Stanford's better than them.
Yeah.
I'll just take Stanford. I'll just take them.
It's not one I'd put any money on for this game. Okay, Wake Forest, 3-point favorite at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech, they had Notre Dame beat. They did. I mean, and Notre Dame wins by 1. So Virginia Tech sitting there at 5-3. Wake Forest 7-1. Their only loss is the 62-59 shootout with Louisville earlier in the year. To me personally, being a 7-1 team, a 1-loss team, I think Wake Forest should be ranked higher in the top 25. I really do. I think they're a better team. It's 3, which I like that it's only 3.
Yeah.
I'm taking Wake Forest in this. If it was higher, I'd probably take Virginia Tech because I think it will be a close game.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take Wake at 3.
Yeah, the last 2 games have been within 2 points and this is Virginia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
They beat UNC in that 6 overtime game.
Yeah.
43-41, and then they were within 1 point with Notre Dame. But Wake Forest, they beat NC State 44-10. They did beat Florida State 22-20, and then, like you said, they lost to Louisville in that shootout. I think they've kind of had their little dropped game. They're a really tough team in the ACC.
They still have Clemson coming up.
Yeah,
Clemson.
I think they've got aspirations ahead of them, and they're not going to look forward to dropping this one. So I'll take them to cover.
Okay. USC, a 1.5 point favorite at Arizona State. USC 5-4, Arizona State 5-3. USC, I thought they'd be more competitive against Oregon. I really did, especially at home.
I did too.
And they just got obliterated.
Yeah.
I mean, and at this point, I'll say, to me, the turning point in that USC Oregon game earlier on, USC has the ball, they're driving. I think they might be either going to tie or go ahead of Oregon. Slovis drops back, and you can see right on the sideline, right there, his running back had come out in the flats, and he's standing right there by the sideline at about the 10, and there is nobody within 25 yards of him.
Yeah.
And Slovis looks over there, and then he comes back this way, and the next thing you know, he fumbles the ball, and Oregon recovers.
Yeah.
And it's like, right there, that was a touchdown. It was a sure touchdown. And at that point, I was like, USC has no chance right now. I mean, that was just a blunder. That's a freshman blunder of epic proportions. I mean, when you have somebody that wide open and you actually look at him and then don't throw him the ball, I mean, there's just no excuse for that. So USC, I don't know if they can bounce back. It's at Arizona State. USC's not been playing that well on the road. I'll take Arizona State since they're the dog. I think they lost last week. They've been struggling of late, but I have more faith in them and their defense than I do USC at this point.
Yeah, I do too as well. Oregon's pass defense is like 49th in the country. And how many interceptions have they ended up getting?
I thought 3. I'd have to go back and look it up.
Yeah,
I'm going by memory.
I just know that USC turned the ball over way too many times.
Yep.
Arizona State, it's an enticing pick. So
you know what? I will say this though, as far as Oregon, they still are not using Justin Herbert like they should.
Yeah.
I think he only had 170 yards passing.
And their other running back that dude is so quick.
Yeah.
I mean, he has all the speed in the world. And I know their other running back, CJ Verdell, he's more of a bigger back, run through the tackles kind of guy.
He looks small to me on TV.
He's bigger than Dye. I mean, Dye is tiny.
He's a tough runner, for sure, but he's not real big.
Okay.
So at least not tall.
That Dye kid, I mean, how you don't get him out on the edge more often and run more, even jet sweeps with him. I mean, that kid was so quick. I know at first when you touch him, he goes down like a feather, but I mean, that kid was really quick. They need to use him a lot more. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I'll take Arizona State.
Okay. Louisville is at Miami. Miami a 5-point favorite. Louisville's 5-3. Miami 5-4. Both teams looking to become bowl eligible. Miami has turned it around lately. I mean, it's just surprising. And I said I reluctantly took Miami last week, and they won. I mean, it was a good pick. So I want to ride that hurricane. Let's keep it going. I'm going to take Miami to cover that 5. So don't let me down.
Yeah, I want to do my Miami friends a favor and pick against them because every time I do, but I also don't want X next to this game that I normally put. So I'm going to take Miami, and I'm sorry, Miami fans. I know that
my pick. Jinx them.
I probably will. I mean,
they'll be getting hackers to hack our channel and take it down and do everything else.
But no, I'm going to pick them. I do think that they're on a roll. They have some momentum late in the year, so looking to get bowl eligible here. I do think that they're better than Louisville. So
Tate Martell has moved from wide receiver back to quarterback. I don't know. I mean, they asked Manny Diaz about it, and he's just, he's been working really well. He's been working hard, but he didn't really answer the question, why did you move him back to quarterbacks? He didn't answer it. So I don't know. We'll see. That's interesting. It's a little interesting storyline there. So, okay, we both have Miami.
So if Miami loses, I'm sorry. I mean,
you can blame him. Don't blame me.
Him this week.
I took him last week, and they won. So there you go. Illinois is at Michigan State. Michigan State 11.5-point favorite. Michigan State's 4-4. Illinois 5-4. Illinois is looking to become bowl eligible as well. But at Michigan State against that defense, I don't know. I know Illinois has been playing better lately since they beat Wisconsin, but But that is a big
But again,
number.
you look at their last 2
11.5.
opponents. It's Rutgers. It's Purdue. Purdue. You never
I'll take
really
Michigan
know.
State to cover.
Yeah, they lost. Well, the last 3 they've played: Penn State, Wisconsin, and Ohio State.
That's
so,
tough. Yeah.
So they're looking to bounce back here. Their last game that they won was Indiana, 40-31.
And Indiana's a lot better.
Yeah.
They're just outside the top 25.
Yeah,
So.
and they beat Northwestern 31-10. Illinois won the last 3, so it's kind of a little bit of a flip flop. And then they lost to Michigan and lost to Minnesota. So 2 teams that we know are good. This one's a kind of a tough one. I
think that spread's right perfect. It's like,
you think so?
I do. I think it's right there. I think it could be a 10-point game. It could be a 12-point game.
I just worry that sometimes Michigan State just has trouble scoring.
They do. Lewerke has trouble, but Illinois' defense is nothing spectacular.
I mean, they're holding
They should be
opponents to
able-
24 points a game.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Big Ten, I guess that could be depending on who you're playing. But I'll take Michigan State to cover. I'm reluctant in it just because they have a tough time scoring the ball sometimes.
Okay. Next one, a big one. Iowa is at Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a 9.5-point favorite. This one, both teams sitting there at 6-2, so they're both bowl eligible. But this one, I believe, in my opinion, decides the Big Ten West. I don't think Minnesota is really a part of it. They could prove me wrong, but I really think this game decides the Big Ten West. So, man, I don't know. 9.5. Iowa's got a really good defense.
Yeah.
And I am not too sold on Wisconsin being able to throw the ball against that defense. However, at the same time, Wisconsin still has a really, really good defense, and Iowa cannot score. I mean, they just have such a tough time scoring.
But 9.5, this might be like a...
This could be a 6-3 game.
Right.
I mean, it really could be. So, just because, man, I don't know. So tough. I want to take Iowa because they're dogs, but at the same time, I mean...
Look at Wisconsin the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Got crushed by Ohio State and then lost at Illinois 24-23. I mean, you can't do that. You just can't.
I mean, I'm going to take Iowa.
I know what I just said about Michigan State and having a tough time scoring. Iowa is even worse to me.
I know.
But their defense is so much better.
Their defense could get them 14 points possibly off turnovers, especially if Wisconsin has to throw. Cone is not very accurate.
This is going to be a defensive battle. I'm going to take Iowa to cover.
Yeah, I'll take Iowa as well.
Yeah.
Okay, Missouri is at Georgia. Georgia, a 14.5-point favorite. I mean, Missouri's not what we thought at all. They're sitting there at 5-3. They've lost to Vanderbilt. They lost to Wyoming earlier in the year. I forget who their third loss was to, but they're just not what we. At one point, they're sitting there at first in the SEC East, and now they've just kind of blown that. I think Kelly Bryant's been dealing with hamstring problems, is what I read. So, that's a lingering thing that doesn't end. It takes all offseason to come, heal from that. So, I don't think he's at 100%, which means if he can't run the ball effectively, then they don't really have a shot. So, Georgia, 14.5, yeah, I'll take them. They can win by 17
I'm going to take them too. I took them this last week, and they covered perfectly, I think by a half a point maybe. So go Dogs this week.
We picked them at 5. The spread at the game.
I thought we picked them at 6.5.
We picked them at 5, and at game time it was 6 or 6.5. And then they won by 7.
I thought it was 8.
24-17.
Wasn't Florida trying to go for 2, or was that a different game?
The final was 24-17. So they won by 7.
Okay.
So
I can't remember the game that somebody went for 2 early.
Yeah.
Earlier on before you'd think, and then they got it off a trick play. What was that? It was an awesome game where they threw back to the offensive lineman.
I know. I can't think of the game.
I can't remember it either.
I do remember seeing
I watched a lot of games this week with OU being off. But.
So you got Georgia.
Yeah.
All right. Next game, Washington State is 7.5-point favorite at Cal. Both teams 4-4. Both teams need a win to try to get to be bowl eligible.
Sorry, my back's hurting.
Both teams need the win basically. But Cal, they lost Garbers for the year. He was their offense, and Washington State probably won't score at will against that defense, but that defense is also not going to be able to get off the field. And so in the third, fourth quarters, Washington State's probably just going to light them up. I think they easily cover 7.
I've got them as well. I've got Washington State.
Okay, Wyoming is at Boise State. Boise State 11.5-point favorite. Boise State 7-1. Wyoming 6-2. Wyoming did beat Missouri earlier in the year. Wyoming, I think, is a lot better team than people think. Boise did not cover against San Jose State.
Yeah.
I think Wyoming is just as tough as an opponent as San Jose State. They are playing on Smurf turf, so I do expect Boise State to win.
Yeah.
But I'm taking Wyoming here in the points because I don't think that they beat them by 12 or more. I think this ends up staying a close game, maybe 6 or 9 points.
Yeah, the last few games, they beat San Jose State by 10. That's a 52-42 game, and then they got beat at BYU, and then against Hawaii. Hawaii was able to score some points, but they did cover. It was 59-37 on that one.
But Hawaii has zero defense.
Right,
I mean, it's
right.
bad.
So I'm going to take Wyoming. I do think that they're a tough team, and I think that they keep it close, but Boise State gets the win.
Yep. Okay. Notre Dame is a 6-point favorite at Duke. Notre Dame 6-2, Duke 4-4. Notre Dame's not as good as we thought. They're nowhere near as good as last year. And man, I just have a gut feeling that Duke pulls off the upset. I don't know why. Duke can still become bowl eligible.
Yeah.
This would be a huge win for them.
Duke's
lost. They're going to have a crowded, packed stadium for this game.
Yeah, Duke's lost their last 3 out of 5. They lost to UNC. They lost to Virginia. They beat Georgia Tech 41-23, and then they lost to Pitt, who's really good.
Yeah.
And then Notre Dame, their last 3 have been pretty good games.
Yeah.
They lost to, actually with Michigan, they lost 45-14, and then the 1 point. We've got this locked in at 6 points.
What's shocking is that Notre Dame beats Virginia Tech by 1 at home, and Duke annihilated Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just shocking how college football works sometimes.
Yeah.
But
it's matchups. It really is
Yeah.
matchups. I mean, Kansas State was a matchup nightmare for Oklahoma, and not to just keep bringing up my team, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. It's you get matched up, and time slots even play a factor into it. Whether you're an 11 o'clock game, a 4 o'clock game, 7 o'clock game.
This is a 7:30 game.
Yeah,
so.
these are college kids. I mean, they're still, they're not professional athletes. They're a lot of them are still really inexperienced, and so I'll take Duke to cover in
You're gonna
this.
take Duke?
Yeah.
I'm going to take Duke too. I was thinking
I know
Dame,
that
but
Notre Dame would like to get that bad taste out of their mouths with the game last week, just winning by 1 point. So I'll take Duke at home to cover. I don't know that they win, but I'll take them to cover.
Okay. Tennessee is at Kentucky. Kentucky a 2.5-point favorite. Both teams have 4 wins. Tennessee has been on a roll.
Yeah.
And look, I didn't watch the Tennessee-Alabama game, and the score was pretty close and looked at stats and stuff. But I saw something this week. I went back and I watched some of it, and I did not realize that there was a point in the game when Tennessee had the ball on the goal line, ready to score, and if they score, they go up on Alabama, and it becomes a different game. And Tennessee was, at that point, Alabama had no answer for them. And the quarterback runs a sneak, fumbles the ball, and it's returned for a touchdown.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it until I saw somebody breaking down the film. He didn't run the play that was called. That call was supposed to go to the tailback because there was a wide open hole there for him. He tried to be a hero, and that's why Jeremy Pruitt ripped his butt after the play on the sideline, because he wanted to be the hero, beat Alabama.
Man.
That was a 14-point swing right there.
Yeah.
And that game, so you just take a 14-point difference in the final score, and I think the score ends up being like 29-20. It's a whole different ball game if they score that touchdown. So, I'm going to take Tennessee to beat Kentucky. Kentucky has ran out of quarterbacks this year. They've been playing wide receivers. I think one whole game they did nothing but run Wildcat, which is, they're just decimated right now. And I think Tennessee has found something.
Yeah.
They've really started to turn the corner.
Yeah.
They can still make a bowl game, which who thought that would happen earlier in the season?
Right.
So I've got Tennessee.
Yeah, I'm going to take Tennessee as well.
Okay.
I think that they're on more, they've got more momentum right now than Kentucky. Yeah. But just basically, you said it all.
Yep.
But,
okay. Clemson, a 31-point favorite at NC State. NC State's 4-4. They are decimated by injuries. They are so bad right now. They can't really compete with anybody. I'll take Clemson to cover the 31.
Yeah, I'll take Clemson as well. I had it pulled up here, and I just saw, contrary to previous years, Clemson is actually 6-3 at covering the spread, so they're 66%. So I'll take them.
Their struggles earlier in the year, I say struggles, they didn't look sharp.
Yeah.
They turned the ball over. The last 3-4 weeks, they have really turned it on.
Yeah.
They've started to look like the team that everybody thought they would be. And so, yeah, that's
Etienne is an insane back.
Yeah.
He is insane.
And Trevor Lawrence is playing better.
Yeah.
And the defense is just, nobody can score on them. I mean, it's incredible what they're doing.
I think Lawrence had over 200 passing yards this last week.
Okay. Well, I mean.
It's a start.
It's a start. Okay. Iowa State is at Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a 13-point favorite. This is a primetime game on Fox. So the Clemson game is the ABC game. So this is the Fox game. This is probably the better game of the two. What do you think? You're the OU guy.
I would not be surprised if Oklahoma came out and won something like 48-14. I mean, I really do think so. And not just a homer pick here, but they're coming off a bye week. They're going to have to watch the College Football Playoff Committee likely not put them in the top 10.
I do think they'll be in. They're 9 in the AP poll right now. I think they're 9 in the. I think they're at 9. The only problem is that, I mean, there has to be some big upsets for them to get up to number 4. I mean, with who's playing who and everything.
If they win, they do kind of control their destiny. If they win the conference, if they win out, you got to do that first. You have to win out, win the conference, and then it's probably. If you don't have a second team in either, like we were talking about, the Big Ten, or because, yes, there is a possibility of 2 Big Ten teams.
Or 2 SEC teams.
Or 2 SEC teams. But then the coin flip between Oregon and Oklahoma with Pac-12 and Big 12. Because now that Auburn loss looks a lot better than the Kansas State loss.
Right. And so then you have okay, so I'll give you a scenario here where you get an
not
undefeated,
a lot better, but a little bit better because Kansas State's playing better.
Here's a scenario where you can possibly have 2 undefeated conference champions who don't make the playoffs, and that's if Minnesota were go undefeated and win the Big Ten, they don't get in. If Baylor goes undefeated and wins the Big 12, I don't think they get in.
If they were undefeated,
I don't think so.
Conference champions,
I don't think so because I don't know if you would consider them one of the 4 best teams, and because. Especially with Baylor, because I mean, the Big 12 is just not that good this year. And then you have, and then with Minnesota, from where they've been, I mean, they've had this weak schedule the whole go around. And if they did win out, they would beat Penn State, and then they'd have to beat Ohio State. So that would vault them. But still,
I want to contest something you just said that the Big 12 isn't as good.
I don't think it is.
I think the contrary. I think it is. They have more teams that are towards the middle than the bottom than they normally do. Usually you'd see Kansas at the bottom, and they're still on the bottom. You'd see West Virginia has been better, but you'd see teams like TCU or Iowa State at the bottom. They're the middle of the Big 12 is a lot tougher right now than it's been in a long time.
Let me throw this in there.
So it's harder to
let me throw this in there.
Win every week.
Tennessee in the SEC right now. The only team in the Big 12 that I think could beat Tennessee is OU. I don't think Baylor would beat them. I don't think TCU or Oklahoma State.
I think that's a stretch.
I don't. So I think when you're comparing,
trying to win Tennessee fans over.
No, I'm just saying that after Oklahoma, there's not much there. I know Baylor's undefeated, but they, what have they really played? You have Oklahoma, Baylor, Iowa State, but then Texas is not very good. TCU's not very good. Oklahoma State's not very good. Kansas isn't good. Kansas State's okay, but but
how much of that is them beating up on each other?
But comparable, well, that's the same thing with the SEC and stuff. But I'm just saying, compared to the other conferences, I don't think the Big 12 and Pac-12 are just not. They don't have much talent. They're not. They're not very. That's my opinion. I'm
not all out. I'm not all out Big 12. If Oklahoma's doing well, I'm happy. I don't care about any of the other teams. I just think that this year it's a heck of a lot different because yeah, you don't have super elite teams at the top, but I think that the middle of that pack is a lot better than it normally is, and there's more I'll say quantity than quality.
But I think with the Pac-12, you've got Oregon and Utah, and then the rest is garbage.
Yeah.
And then in Big 12, you have Oklahoma and right now Baylor, and everything else is garbage. And that's just my opinion. But I mean, I don't know. It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So anyway, I still think you could end up with an undefeated Baylor, undefeated Minnesota, and they don't get in, just depending on how some of these other things
I
play
wouldn't
out.
think that both of them wouldn't. At least one of them would get in. I would think so. I mean, because we've heard 4 best teams. I mean, I've heard Kirk Herbstreit even on ESPN saying 4 best teams. These are not the 4 best teams, and it's still they award it to a undefeated conference champion would be, and they've even the committee has said it. They will take precedence over a one-loss non-champion.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm going to take Oklahoma to cover in this one, and like I said, don't be surprised if they blow Iowa State out. I think this is a tough time for Iowa State to catch Oklahoma.
I got Oklahoma covering as well. I think the final score is like 48-30, is what I think. Purdy and Iowa State's going to score some points.
I think that defense is going to take that loss to Kansas State. They've had 2 weeks now to work out whatever kinks they had, and I don't see 30 points, but it could be
4 or 5 games that.
I believe it's 4.
4 games without a single turnover. The defense hasn't gotten a turnover, so that's it's hard to
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, so we both have OU. All right, final game. This is the last one is number 1 LSU at number 2 Alabama. This is the one everybody's really been waiting for weeks now. Alabama is a 6.5-point favorite. Both teams undefeated. Winner of this game most likely wins the SEC West. Certainly, if LSU wins this game, they win the SEC West. If Alabama, well, really, even if Alabama lost this game, or if Alabama wins but then loses to Auburn, they still get the tiebreaker with LSU, and so Alabama would still win. So really, the winner of this one wins it. I mean, for the most part. I mean, unless somebody just completely goofs and falls off the radar. But I'm glad to see Alabama as the favorite because I think LSU wins the game. So I'll take LSU.
Have we heard any more about Tua?
He is still game time decision. There is just no way. There's no way in hell he is 100% for this game. No way. I think, in my opinion. I know Alabama fans don't want to hear this. They've had him out there his first day of practice, and I believe it was Thursday or Friday last week, and he practiced a little bit, but he didn't practice in front of the media. They kept him out away from the cameras. They said he's on the field. I think Nick Saban wants LSU to prepare for Tua, and then they're going to throw the other kid in there.
Yeah.
I don't think Tua's going to play. If he does play, I don't know if he lasts the whole game because I don't. It's too soon. I mean, you need at least 4 weeks to recover from that. I mean, I think they're rushing him back, and I really think that if he gets hurt even worse because they rushed him back, really going to jeopardize his chances in the NFL. So, I mean, he's already had a problem with the other ankle, and so I don't know. I know Alabama wants to win this game. Everybody wants Tua to play. All the LSU players are saying we want him to play. We don't want to play the backup.
Yeah.
We want to win this with their best people, and that's admirable to say. I just think even if he plays, he's not 100%. I mean, you got to give the edge to LSU, I think.
Yeah, I think this game is going to be really, really close. Yeah. I think this could be the game that,
3 points, just like
last team with the ball, wins
could
it.
Be.
With a walk-off maybe. With Tua, if Tua's not playing, I don't really give Alabama much of a shot.
Yeah,
I know they've got a really good defense, but it's not as good as Saban's teams have normally been.
Yep.
I would maybe even give the edge to LSU as far as defense goes.
Delpit's questionable too. I mean,
that's right.
He not guaranteed that he's going to play.
He did get injured, but I think they have more in their secondary.
Yeah. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been running the ball like crazy.
Yeah.
If that offensive line can open up some holes, I mean. That he's a game changer too.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Burrow's the one everybody talks about. He's the Heisman front runner. I expect him to have a big game too. A big game in this game is throwing 2 touchdowns, maybe 250 yards. That's a big game in this game.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to take LSU to cover. Like I said, I think this is going to be a really, really close game. maybe between 2 to 3 points. I think I'm surprised it's not a 3-point spread right now. And that number may drop by the time Friday comes around.
Yep. Okay, that's our picks. I just want to briefly mention because I said about South Carolina. So, not going to say who but I ran into somebody today. Turns out he's pretty prominent figure around South Carolina. Knows Steve Spurrier, knows a lot about what's going on at South Carolina. People are not really happy with Will Muschamp. He's paying both of his coordinators a lot of money, over $1 million a year. And I think people, quietly, what I'm hearing, rumbling, is that people who are influential at South Carolina are basically saying, do whatever it takes to get Urban Meyer, but they're not getting Urban Meyer.
Yeah,
but that's what they're going to go for.
I would think Urban Meyer would go to maybe USC before.
I don't see that. The only place I see Urban Meyer coaching, if he decides to come back to coach, there's only 2 places I believe that he will coach again, and that is Notre Dame if it becomes open, or the Dallas Cowboys. That's it. And the reason I say that, and I don't know Urban Meyer or anything, I don't know what he said, but I can tell you a lot of what happened at Florida when he quit. He was working 16, 18-hour days. He's on the record as saying this after he left. He was working 16, 18-hour days, and his wife has a lot of say in what they do.
Yeah.
Her family's from the Columbus area. Like when he left Florida and quit, he moved to Columbus. Trussell was still the coach. There was not an opening at Ohio State. There wasn't going to be. It's not like he moved there anticipating to be the coach. Things just kind of happened after he moved there, but that's home for them. And so I don't see him up and moving across the country.
Yeah.
I mean, she put stipulations on him before he took the Ohio State job. He's not to be sleeping in the office and doing all that because he has health issues. She's going to have a big say in what happens. I don't see him at a USC. I don't see him at a South Carolina or anywhere else. There's 2 places, Notre Dame because of the historical significance of it, and he has mentioned that. And then Urban Meyer was on record as saying when they were what they were talking about was Lincoln Riley possibly as a Cowboys coach.
Yeah. And
they asked Urban Meyer what do you think of that? If they call, do you take that phone call? And he's like, that's the one place you got to take that phone call. And he was basically saying, if they offer you the job, you got to take it. It's the Cowboys. So that could be in his future. But those are the only 2 places I could ever see it happening.
Speaking of former coaches, I think it was Arkansas's Barstool account on Twitter said that they didn't have any inside information, but they wouldn't be surprised if Bob Stoops was their next head coach. And I'm
like,
no.
He's not going
He's
there.
one that maybe he does, a season or 2 in the XFL and maybe takes the Dallas Cowboys job.
He's part owner there. He's general manager, and I think he's part owner of the Renegades. So, it took that to get him in the XFL. So, does he go back to college? I don't think so.
I don't think he does either. He's got health issues, or not necessarily health issues, but his dad died on the sideline coaching. I mean, he's, I think, kind of worried about. We won't get too far into that, but
I could maybe see him with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that happening, but.
Wouldn't be the first time a former Oklahoma coach went to
I don't follow the
Cowboys.
NFL that closely, and I'm not a Cowboys fan, but Cowboys are not going to win a Super Bowl with Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
Just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with that Jason Garrett does not have kind of the authority to kind of get in Jerry Jones's face and say, take a step back, stay in your lane, I'm the coach. And you need somebody who's going to have that kind of authority, who can that he overshadows Jerry Jones. There's only a few people that could do that. Urban Meyer would be one. Bob Stoops could do it. I don't think Lincoln Riley could. I don't think he's been around long enough that he could go down there and tell Jerry Jones, we're going to do this.
It'd be another Jason Garrett.
It would be. It really would be, yeah. So, okay, that's it. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Please hit that like button on the video. Comment.
Yeah,
follow us on Twitter.
As we're getting into later on in the season, I know a lot of people are, becoming less and less interested because their teams aren't doing as well. So, it means a lot to us if you share our videos. You're the best way that our videos get out to other people. The more you watch, the more it pops up on other people's suggested. It's not a political channel, so we don't really get deranked or anything like that. At least I don't think.
Nope.
But just share, hit the bell if that still works.
Yep. That helps too if you hit that bell. And another thing, got contacted today about a possible sponsorship from a company. It's a very, very cool product. That's all I'm going to say. We're going to talk to them and see what happens, but we may have a sponsor soon.
Yeah.
It's a very, very coal product that all you guys are going to be interested in. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see what happens. So playoff rankings come out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
9 o'clock Eastern Time, ESPN, 8 o'clock Central Time.
So that'll be, if you're watching this Monday, that'll be tomorrow.
Yeah. So stay tuned to that, and then starting maybe next week, I don't know, we'll talk. But I don't like putting the AP rankings when they're going to be different from the playoff rankings. So maybe for these last few weeks, since the interest has fallen off a little bit, maybe we start posting our videos on Wednesday, shoot them Tuesday night after the rankings, and then we can have the playoff rankings, and we can also talk about that. So. That might be for the last few weeks, but again, like Shaun said, just
you got to watch. In order for us to do that, you guys have to watch, because we're not gonna. It's tough to kind of sacrifice those numbers, as far as views. Those are 2 extra days we could be getting views, and not to be selfish, but we need all the views we can get at this point.
Yeah.
So still trying to grow.
Our goal every week is for 15,000 views. That's what we want. Anything above that's great. When we hit 20,000 is great. Subscribers have still going up, but they're slowing down a little bit. So if you know anybody that hasn't subscribed to us, hit them up, tell them subscribe to us. And, again, thank you for watching though. And please comment, and we will see you next week.